my Toledo people doing today? Hey.
Good.
Great.
Toledo is in New York. Imagine that.
Right.
How are you doing today, Dr. Tonia Pace?
I am wonderful. Thank you.
That is wonderful. And Mr. Malcolm Cunningham, how are you today?
I'm doing well.
I love the eyewear.
Thank you. Yeah, I had to accidentally cut my beard off, so I had to do something a little different, I guess.
Okay, yeah, you look just a tad bit.
A little young, yeah.
And still handsome nonetheless. So, listen, we're going to be together for about an hour, of course, just kind of chopping it up about your mission. Folks want to get to know you and what it is that you're offering, in the way of your mission and your purpose. And then we're going to wrap that around Juneteenth and culturally specific programming and such. But I just wanted to thank you for coming out on this Juneteenth celebration. I think it's a momentous occasion, as we are now celebrating this as a national holiday. And so there's a whole lot to be a stand for. I first want to be a stand for you, each of you individually. Can you share with us, Dr. Tonia Pace? I'm telling you, I remember the family house from years ago, but I know there's a lot going on that you want for folks to know. Share with us your mission and your purpose there at the family house today.
Well, the family house, it has been in existence for 35 years, which is amazing. It was started by a group of African-American pastors in the Toledo community. And the goal in the mission is to provide families, whole families, with emergency family shelter in an effort to move them towards self-sufficiency. So that is in the mission. In short, we have a multitude of services that we provide on site. And I just was talking to some of my staff a couple of days ago. COVID had us running at about 60% capacity. We are now 35 of our 36 rooms filled. So we have 107 people in our building.
Wow.
Yes.
That's huge. That's huge service. That is really huge service. So what is your purpose? I know you're being there in the way of service, but what would you like to accomplish?
Honestly, what I have said repeatedly is I would like to not have a job. I mean, that's just it in a nutshell. I would like to be and the impetus to end homelessness, to be able to provide the families that come to Family House with the tools that they need to no longer be homeless, to be economically able to sustain themselves. And often in quite a few communities, there's a housing shortage of economic affordable housing. So exactly. in my mind, what Family House needs to do is position people to increase their income so that they can afford those homes and those properties and those things, so that being homeless is just not possible. So it is creating an environment and collaborating in a manner where, again, Family House is obsolete. There's no need. And if it is, it's for a very short term.
Right. Yeah, I know that Malcolm is going to share with us how he may be able to be, supportive with regards to that. I know he's got some good, programs. I have always been concerned about folks who are dealing with homelessness. And it's just like, how do you get some of these things done when you don't have an address, and everything. And so how do you support the folks that you do serve? How do you support them when they're looking for a job and things of that nature, need a phone, need an address?
Well, you know what, the wonderful thing, and this is a nod to ProMedica and some of the other organizations in the community, churches and Toledo Community Foundation, is I dig for dollars so that we can provide those items and those services to help them help families move. We have some grant dollars now, and I just, maybe right before I got on here, about 12:30, 12:15, arranged for a gentleman to get an Uber to a job interview.
All right.
So, and arrange for him to get back to the shelter. So we do that. We have ProMedica granted us some dollars to provide daycare for families, because by the time they get approved from JFS, there's a gap. And so those dollars will go towards that. We have dollars. We just bought someone some work shoes. She needed work shoes. She got a job. So she didn't have the money. We were able to do that. I had to work last night because we're short staffed, and I worked from 11 to 7, and a young man came in at 11:30, and wherever he works, he's having issue with transportation. And I said to him, we can do that. You need to make sure Monday you get with us so we can make sure you get to and from work. So it's those things. We were blessed with a bunch of mattresses, so people don't have to struggle and spend the little dollars that they have setting up house when they move out. So it's a myriad of different ways that we provide financially through partners and collaborators in the community. But we also do case management. We have volunteers who have done job education, health education. At one point we had nurses coming in the building doing some health education as well. So there's a plethora of things going on in the building.
So the one thing that also occurs to me is job search. I have a huge background as a career, consultant, counselor, put workforce development strategies together. And I also get concerned about Dress for Success. Are you partnering with anybody right now to assist with wardrobing during that season?
Well, how awesome is that? We just, Nigel Hayes donated thousands of dollars of clothes to us last week. We also partner with the church, Mount Nebo, because they have a clothing closet, and we get a good portion of donations in clothing. And a lot of people do ask about professional attire. So we have suits, we have skirts, we have all of that. And when they come, and if we don't, then we are figuring a way to purchase what's needed.
It's wonderful. This is great. I'm really happy to hear about your program mission and purpose. And I'm going to ask Malcolm, can you share with us? I know we hear a lot about what ProMedica, is up to. We can turn on the news channel or look at a news, publication at any time, and there's a plethora of information there. But not everybody knows about the Ebeid, Malcolm, and all the wonderful things that you're doing, over there to connect with community. So can you share with us what is your mission as it relates to that?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. And I'll also say we're so large and we do so many things that sometimes the news report is when I find out about some of these things too. So can't give you everything about ProMedica. I can definitely give you everything about the Ebeid. So the Ebeid Center was established about 6 years ago at this point, right? So we're in a neighborhood in Toledo, Ohio that's been identified as like a food desert, which I think we're all familiar with at this point. And we wanted to recruit a grocery store to come into the neighborhood. So we attempted to for quite some time. I guess, obviously, I can't give specific names, but we tried for quite some time with some of the major grocery stores, and it didn't happen, right? So we decided that it was such an issue in this community and that health was beginning to become more and more connected to some of these upstream things, that it made sense to address the food desert by building a grocery store in the middle of one, right? So it started there. And, a couple of years later, as we were digging deeper and deeper into this kind of upstream work, which I would say is something that, is is something that's quite common in, I would say, other spaces in the social service space. But as far as a healthcare agency, isn't something that is always typical or isn't always considered. We began thinking more and more about like the social determinants of health, right? So where you live, where you play, what you have access to as far as food, education, things of that nature, determine your health far before you ever even make it to the doctor, right? So as we were thinking about that aspect of it, and we were thinking about the initial work we were doing in the food space, we decided that we wanted to lead a community development initiative and have the Ebeid Center kind of as that hub for the work in the social determinants of health space that we're doing. So at this point, 6 years on, the Ebeid Center has the grocery store on the bottom floor. We have financial coaches that work with residents, that work with people outside of the community, regardless of income, in order to provide financial coaching, in order to help them navigate credit crises, and in order to help them navigate bills or getting access to housing or whatever those things are. So it's about connection to resources, but also about building knowledge and skills so that they can have a sense of financial stability over time, right? So it's addressing basic needs. It's also ensuring that we have a sound base, we have sound information for how to actually move forward and how to navigate out of poverty. And from there, we also have health and wellness, a number of programming. I'm actually sitting inside of the second floor right now. It's a I don't know if you can see it, but this is an instructional kitchen that I'm sitting in right now. So, we have classes where, you move from the grocery store up to the second floor and you're learning how to prepare fresh fruits and vegetables in a way that's actually delicious and culturally appropriate and relevant so that, you can truly have a meaningful experience or connection with food that's actually good for you, right? So it's all about connecting those pieces together in order to improve health and well-being, because we know that so much of it happens far before you ever make it to the doctor. So we do those things. We also are quite invested in jobs and finances as well. So if we were to go all the way to the back of this second floor, we actually have a kind of a learning lab for state tested nursing assistants where any person can apply. And we have cohorts for 5 weeks at a time. They take every single class for free. We pay for the nursing assistants licensure test. And then we give them an automatic interview once they've made it through all those things within our system, right? So it's about creating those pathways to long-term stability, to financial well-being, to health and wellness, because we know that it takes that wraparound support, all those pieces and parts to truly move the needle, whether it's for an individual or for an entire community. So so our areas are that jobs and finances, like I mentioned, it's education and training as well. We have GED classes. We have another initiative that will kick off fairly soon that will also be another exciting announcement. We have, of course, the health and wellness, the food security, but we also work a bit in the housing stability space as well. So that takes a number of forms. Sometimes with the Ebeid Neighborhood Promise and the Ebeid Center, it's funding organizations and supporting organizations that are doing meaningful work. So we fund an organization that works with the chronically homeless in our community because, of course, there's a spectrum of being unhoused, right? There are those that, miss out on a bill, or they have something that comes up with their housing, or, whatever those things are, and they end up homeless, or they need to escape a situation and they end up on the streets, right? And then there's also on the other spectrum, those that have had to navigate a series of broken systems for decades and are chronically homeless, right? So how do you address needs and the issues that underpin those things every step along the way? So we fund a position to ensure that we can truly address people wherever they're at on that spectrum, with a focus on those that are chronically homeless. In addition to that, we're actually, if I were to look out the window, we're going to be working with a partner to establish a workforce rate housing, which is pretty interesting. So what that means is it will be high quality, designed like it's market rate, but it will actually be accessible for people in this community because there's a significant gap in affordable housing for people that are making, working class wages, right? You either have public housing or you have wildly expensive housing, and everything is cost burdened. But the majority of people are either teetering on that edge or somewhere where, paying more than 33%, $3.33 out of 10 on your housing means that you're paying too much for housing. And that's a situation that many of us find ourselves in. So how do we really address that gap? So it's a suite of support. It's about connecting with and meeting people where they are and attempting to help them navigate out of the situations that they find themselves in. So, it's exciting work. It takes on a number of moving parts and pieces. I could go on and on and on about some of the other parts that are happening, but I would say that's really what we do. And something that Dr. Pace mentioned so my department that I work within is called the Social Determinants of Health Department. I described what SDOH is, so we don't need to jump into that. Underneath that is community impact. So my boss, Adrian Bradley, is the director of community impact. And then underneath community impact is the Ebeid Neighborhood Promise and a number of other initiatives. And one of the things that we did was created a funding structure for the neighborhood that Dr. Pace is referencing, the Junction. I think I'm right about that. The Junction neighborhood in Toledo, Ohio. In order to listen to the residents of the community, to listen to the organizations that are working in that community, and to use that along with the neighborhood planning efforts that have been going on for years, along with, aligning it with the priority areas that we have, like housing stability, like jobs and finances, health and wellness, like I just mentioned, and using that to create a request for proposals so that those hardworking grassroots organizations in the community could then apply for funding so that they could then address the needs of their residents. Like we know, and this I'm probably going too far, but
no, you're doing just fine.
But yeah, it's a suite of different types of work, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's funding, sometimes it's partnership, sometimes it's direct programming, sometimes it's strategy, sometimes it's technical assistance, sometimes it's getting out of the way and letting these skilled organizations, do whatever they need to, right? So it's a number of things that we do. I've really enjoyed being in this role. It's deeply meaningful and important to me. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it whenever I get a chance to.
I can tell, Malcolm, you just really light up, as does Dr. Tonia Pace. Just light up when it is that you're talking about what it is that you do. And I'm excited to work with both of you because I'm like that too. And we know that when we're serving folks in our community, that the people that we're serving, they get that we have a vested interest in their success and them overcoming what some of the challenges are that they have been faced with. And I have this whole big old definition of what is culturally specific services, but I have to say that both of you, you are aligning yourself with what the culturally specific needs are in our urban environments here, in Toledo. One of the other things that happens in the space when Community Reinvestment Coalition brings folks together in a space is we end up collaborating. And I'm telling you, I'm sitting here looking at both of you guys and I can just see 1 + 1 = 3. You know that you've had already created a listening for the needs that are, they're available to you to serve Family House. And so it just sounds like there needs to be like a conversation, how can we get we're going to have to call them residents, to your space, of being able to use the Financial Opportunity Center, be able to come over to classes, because I know that there's been a lot of online learning with Ebeid as of late. I don't know when you're opening up the doors, if you will, opening up the house so that folks can come over, and I don't know if that means that Dr. Pace would be, okay, who can we get to give us a bus, so we can take folks over who don't have a car, over to Ebeid so we can talk about, some plant-based living, or some healthy food choices. Because when you're homeless, right, and I don't know what the space is over there, Dr. Pace, but when you're homeless, you don't have your your cultural space to create in, as far as preparing foods and things of that nature. Not, wow, I forgot how to boil water, but just all the food prep, that goes into how I used to cook mama's meals. And you guys talk about that. How can you bridge that gap? Because I can certainly see where there's a gap that needs to be bridged.
I think
So
that for us, that was one of the reasons why we are constantly seeking out dollars for transportation and supportive services, because we know, based on what we do, and I don't think anyone can have the capacity to meet every need. So you have to partner and you have to collaborate. I am excited. We have plenty. Again, we have 106 bodies at this point. And so we have individuals who are in need, employment skills, financial management, basic healthy eating. We have people who have health issues. And so what's the proper diet? What they shouldn't be eating? We just had a pregnant mom who had diabetes, and the baby was born, and the sugar levels were high. So when she gets him home, how does that work? So all of those conversations have to be had. And so getting the information so that we can connect is critical. So, because you meet the need.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll probably just set up a phone call. I'll come by your place, you come by mine, and we'll get it all sorted out. We have the skill set. You have the people. We have the space. It's like you said, it's the 1 + 1 = 3. We don't need to complicate it beyond that, right?
Exactly.
And one of the, transportation is a significant issue here as well within Uptown. And for those that are, I guess, kind of observing from home, Uptown and Junction are closely connected, as well as Englewood, where Kathy is from. They're actually all a part of a very similar space. And the interesting thing about it is it's actually separated by 75, by the highway, which I think we all know is connected to a number of other, I would say, systematic discriminatory things that have happened within Toledo and in cities across the country, like historically, right? So in some ways, the work that we're doing with the transportation or with connecting across 75 is attempting to mitigate or address, the barrier that was quite literally built through an old Black neighborhood, right? So I think that's also an interesting kind of layer to this conversation that I think is worth exploring in some ways as well. So yeah, we'll talk, we'll connect, and we'll get some stuff figured out. I know that for sure.
This is really good. I think, I had conversations with both of you and, Dr. Pace, when we talked, I was so excited. Like, Kathleen, that was a lot. It's like, I know, but it's like, I am so moved, touched, and inspired about the energy, that is stirred up in Toledo. I mean, there is a vibrant energy. I feel like, I think I had shared with somebody, this is the first time I've been in Toledo when it's just feeling like a roller coaster ride. And I don't do roller coasters much, but I'm just excited about the level of interest, and desire to reconnect these arteries, that have been disconnected, for years. And, so it's important for us to look for ways to create partnership opportunities and to bridge gaps. Malcolm has so many programs that are offered over there at the Ebeid, and I know he's living for the doors of Toledo to open up so we can unmask and be in community again, because what we're missing right now is our humanity. And certainly, the work that you are engaged in, Dr. Pace, requires, a humanity, a humane response to the needs of others. I'm just kind of curious, did you say you're working with youth as well? Did you say that?
We have, what we have in our building is we have 106 right now. And that our capacity, I think we're waiting on a bed. So there's a 4-bed that's empty. So that will make it 110. But we have 60% of those are children under the age of 17. We get them from our newest client will be 2 days old. So we get them from 0 to it doesn't matter. We have individuals that are wheelchair bound. We have seniors. So, but yes, we do have children in our building.
So just out of curiosity, who do you work with to support the needs of youth today?
Well, I can't say we partner. We do partner. We have, we work with a number of agencies in the community. If there is a place that a parent would like to send their child for a summer camp, if tutoring, we have a public school that comes in the building for tutoring several days a week. We work with each school district where a child comes from, that school district is required to keep them in their school district for continuity. So we work with all of the school districts, and I say that we work with all of the school districts. I think sometimes people think it's just a Toledo public thing, but we work with all of the school districts. We work with mental health agencies if there's a need. We have an independently run daycare on site, but we also will transport to any daycare that parent prefers to go to. We have partnered with the Salvation Army at one point. We partner with the Kitchen for the Poor. We've partnered with Art Tatum on occasion. So I've had conversation with, and it's a sister. They have a program in 04, and I can't remember the name. So honestly, I don't necessarily have a pref. I don't care if it's going to help me get the kids that we serve. Then that's what I'm there for. This is ministry for me. So
I totally love it. One of the reasons why I'm bringing up the youth is, that's really where I started, working with youth and families. So I just have an affinity, for what next generation, could look like. And, we started with the Juneteenth here in New York, got on board just a tad bit late, but we are still, pushing forward because we want to have this type of programming in Toledo, and we welcome your participation in that. How that relates to the youth, we actually do a pomp, with the Juneteenth, and it gives us an opportunity next year to work with 14 to 19-year-olds to assist them. I guess in a sense, it's a cultural rites of passage in a sense, because there's a 9-week clinic. Of course, we're addressing etiquette and things of that nature, but we impart principles that are culturally specific, to our families and to our learning. And that could be the Kwanzaa principles and purpose, and as well as the purpose of Juneteenth, so that we could just rebuild and restructure the fabric and the fiber, in our communities of family and of community. So getting an opportunity to celebrate 14 to 19-year-old young men and women and really congratulate them, to support them. So it's like, hey, my mom may be in a situation right now. The circumstances do not have to define, where we end up as individuals. And so holding space, though, such that they can still maintain an interest in their education and, maintain an interest in being involved in other programs that will continue to uplift them and keep their esteem, in a high place. So, such that they can move on through high school and then into college. And so I just want to invite you to hang out with us in the coming months, Dr. Pace, and also, Malcolm, we can continue to partner and identify ways that we could just put this type of programming back in our communities. I think the timing is perfect, as we're coming out of this pandemic and looking for opportunities to create touch point, opportunities again, in community and connecting these cultural dots to these programs again. And so I'm hopeful that that's something that you would be open to, Dr. Pace, and working with us, that we could work with you in that way.
Oh, absolutely. I am.
Yes.
And what I will say is that I can say that is very much needed, because oftentimes we get the teenagers who consider it such a stigma to be at the shelter. The parents let them stay somewhere else because there is just that much of a stigma. So the support for them is critical.
Absolutely. Another thing comes to mind for me, it's just a remembrance of sometimes when I'm here in Toledo, we need to just identify ways that we can not just, fill gaps really and connect dots to one another, so that the organizations are working together. And that was another thing that I was hoping to engage you in a conversation about. What do you think about nonprofits that are serving folks in our urban environments to maybe identify an event or something that we can all galvanize around, each year? Do you think that that's something that we could maybe, it's like I was talking with one executive director this past week who does the Afro Ball. And these are young kids that are in junior high school. Well, after they finish the Afro Ball, and what's next? We don't have anything that we're holding space for. But one of the things she mentioned to me was, wow, Kathleen, it would be great. I mean, I have a room of over 1,000 people, families and youth that we're serving. It would be great if we could be like in the back of the room, all the nonprofits, and are serving Central City youth, etc., in the back of that room, holding space for these youth and families, so they know what's next because we're there. We have another event. I think it's another event that is at the Ottawa Park tomorrow. Wonderful family. They have started a foundation because they lost their son, unfortunately, at the age of 25, who was a great coach, over at Central Catholic. And all the kids loved him. He was always making sure that the boys had their cleats and things of that nature. So his mom and dad have since started a foundation. They want to make sure that the boys have cleats. They want to give away 1,000 cleats tomorrow, because of this event. I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could show up at their event, supporting these families if they need cleats. We know they need something else. Okay. So, what do you think? Can we galvanize around, can we do this? Do you think that's a good idea, that we could maybe support a organization, a nonprofit, and show up, fully in the back of the room and hey, these are the other services that we have to offer? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I do. I think that's a great idea. And I also, I think what I really appreciate about what you're saying is connecting it explicitly to the ongoing or pre-existing, I would say, infrastructure that's there, like the cultural infrastructure or fabric that already exists, right? Like sometimes I think nonprofits or whoever else have certain metrics that they have to hit. And sometimes that means that there is the creation of events or things so that they can check that box, right? So it isn't always resonant. It doesn't always explicitly connect with the needs that the residents have said. And I keep calling them residents. I mean, to be honest, like that, my people, right? That my neighbors, I think I'm still in like corporate speak a little bit, I guess. So I really like the idea. Like there's absolutely space for us to create and build our own, but I also think in some ways the larger institutional nonprofits, whatever those look like, would benefit from stepping into other spaces and supporting and holding space alongside them, as opposed to attempting to kind of step over them or step around them or treat them like they're just like a piece that can be attached. Like obviously partnerships make sense. Obviously there will be resource fairs for as long as we live. But what does it look like if we are intentionally stepping into other space with an explicit invitation from them, for sure, to then provide that sort of support. I really like that idea. And, you know, one of the things pre-pandemic that, you know, I was kind of bouncing around with a couple of my friends. This is the sort of thing I do with my friends is what would it look like if we had, you know, the equivalent of Afro-Ball or cotillion for our elders, right? Like, what does an elderly cotillion look like?
Yes.
So I think, yeah, I like what you're saying. I think there's all sorts of interesting potential connections that could be made, and whether that's within, you know, the nonprofit and connecting to resources space, or, you know, attempting to meet folks and create something interesting and engaging. Like, I think there's a way to get these things done. However,
yeah. I appreciate you talking about seniors and bringing them into the space, because my heart of hearts has always been youth and seniors. And so, we have so many of our seniors that we really want to wrap our arms around right now. I mean, you know, with all the social determinants of health, you know, that they've been dealing with during this COVID, you know, season, you know, as such. But I just remember just being present pre the, you know, COVID, and just how many seniors don't even get a hug today. You know, nobody stops and talks to them and really holds space, you know, for all the history and the stories, you know, that they can still share. And all we have to do is, you know, it's just like an orange. You squeeze it, what comes out is what's inside. And it's, you know, for our seniors, still a lot of juicy stuff going on there. So thank you for bringing that about. Dr. Pace, is there something you wanted to add to that? Do you think it's a good idea?
I think it's a wonderful idea. I think that I don't think organizations necessarily work in silos, but I see that there's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement in partnering and collaborating and making sure we're meeting the needs of the client. Sometimes we get in our own way and we think we know what they need. But in all reality, what we think is not necessarily what they need. So it's having those conversations. And we had a family who the dad was so excited last spring, pre-COVID, so it could have been, but he to take his daughter to the father-daughter dance. So we found suit. We got somebody to dry clean it. We found her a dress. Because oftentimes the people in the shelter are forgotten for those events. And so community-wide events where nobody is left behind, where everybody has the opportunity to attend and to participate. I know that I don't know what some of our kids would do. We've done prom dresses for individuals in the shelter. So those are things that I think sometimes people forget. And as you said, the seniors and an event for them, those marginalized groups, the groups that we tend to forget about, are the ones that as a community we need to move in an expeditious manner to assist.
Absolutely. You do an event once a year at all? Like celebrate all of the support that you have received, Dr. Pace?
We do not. That has been one of our conversations, is how can we create an atmosphere, whether it's via an open house or something for people to come through, because I think a lot of times people don't realize what happens at Family House. And so they don't understand what it's like to feed 100 people 3 times a day, you know. Or
I got 100 kids. I got to feed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You know, so it is what it's like when you see the 19-year-old come to your door with a 6-month-old baby and nothing but a diaper bag. So those are the type of things that it would be nice to do. And to have, so people can come through and come visit and see what we do. And that will get them to that 43604, that specific junction area as well. Because it's a lot to see in that area. Art Tatum Zone is right down the street. You got Warren Church. You got the Senior Center. You got MLK Kitchen for the Poor around the corner. So it's a lot in that little space.
I know that I don't have a lot of space, and I know Malcolm ain't got a lot of space and time neither. Okay, but I'm gonna tell you something. We're gonna have to put a pin in this conversation, and we're gonna have to get together and support you in that conversation so we can help you to hold space for you to do a really nice event so that we can get this community on board, you know, with assisting all of these youth and family and seniors that you're serving over there. So that's just my promise. Do I got the Ebeid promise with me today on that piece?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so there you go, Dr. Sonia Pace. Okay, this is how we do it in Toledo. You know, at least these hearts and these hands that you're sitting with today, and we all got some outreach. So, you know, that's what's next.